Go to Practical Machinist, people talk about using their favorite beverage carton to make their own blotters. And then I found a website that says, never cut your own blotters. This took all the wear. I don't know if you can see how much wear is on this thing. There's a present Don gave me a couple years ago. Kind of neat. And it goes on this with your wheel in here, and you balance it. Hi guys, welcome back. Tonight's video is going to have a little bit of everything going on it. Real quickly, I'm going to stick this riser on top of the column of the Bridgeport. This is just a 4-inch riser. Never did like the 6-inch risers too much. But a 4-inch riser gives you a little bit more working space, and I've always found that I like Bridgeport's raised up about 4 or 5 inches. So this kind of does the same thing while at the same time giving you a little bit more working envelope. So it's a good thing to have. Not a lot of Bridgeports I see have had them. Now, I'm also going to show you about my tractor tonight. I got it fixed. A pain in the rear end. Got some news on the grinder, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing next on this. This is already set up. I just need to put the knee on it. But then I got to looking at the gib, and we're going to do some work on the gib. In fact, I'll show you that right now. This, for those of you that don't know, is a gib. Made out of cast iron, and they're usually basically a 4-sided shape. An angle here, a flat, an opposite angle here, and then another flat. Now, these little grooves are oiling ports. They're hollow. I don't know if you can see through it. There's a hole right there. And oil goes through the knee, through these holes, and oils this. Now, this side basically is the flat side. The other side is a taper. And this slides into the gibs, which is also tapered on that side. Has a notch right here where an adjusting screw can go in. And by raising this up or pushing it down with that adjustment screw, it makes the dovetail squeeze into the column, and basically you can adjust the play so that the column and the knee doesn't wiggle together. This takes up that. But it also moves up and down with the knee. And what happens is they get worn. Now, the knee and the column on this were almost perfect. It's because they were hard chromed. This took all the wear. I don't know if you can see how much wear is on this thing. If you look in the middle, you can still see the flaking right in that area. But the thing that gets me or concerns me, and why I'm not just going to stick this right back in here, is you can see on this edge out right there, that edge has a little wear spot. And it's basically a raised, well, it's this edge, excuse me. This edge has a little wear spot where it slid up and down, and that part didn't touch the back of the dovetail. So it took wear off of this. Almost stick this on the grinder, which I got almost ready to go, and I'll show you that in a minute. And flatten this off, and then I'm going to reflake it with a scraper. Straight as all get out. I'll put it on the surface table and you can check. It's fine, doesn't need to be bent back or anything, so I need this finished to finish putting the knee on. There's a present Don gave me a couple years ago. Kind of neat. What I wanted to show you was this one. Stephen McKinley, who's got a YouTube channel, I'll put a link to it somewhere, took this picture of us while we were over at the Windy Hill Foundry this year, working on doing some modifications. There I am in the back, and Steven's right there in the black shirt or blue shirt right beside me. There's Keith Rucker and Clark, and Stan's the one towering over all of us. We sure had a good time. In about 2 weeks, I'm leaving and going to take a road trip out to Stan's Z-Bar Bash, or Z-Bash, I guess it is. Clark and Keith Rucker will be traveling together, and I'm going to meet up with them, and we're going to bunk out in my RV while we're there. But going to have a good time. If anybody's there, come say hi. Thanks for the picture, Stephen. I painted up my riser. It came in really nice shape. In fact, I'll leave a description down below of the place I got it. This guy buys old Bridgeports and scraps them out, and it's up in the Northeast, and it was a decent price. Got here well packed. So if you need any parts, check him out. Now this is called the Spider. The Spider is X-shaped. It's got holes in it that are 1/2 inch by 13 inch threaded, and it has some flats right here that ride on the underside of the top of this column. This column's milled here and then on the other inside. And basically what happens is, well, look at this. This sits basically on that surface on the underneath here and clamps this surface to this surface so that you can undo 4 bolts and wiggle it around to get an angle. And that's a way you could get a little bit more space on your mill. Because basically, say your table's here and your spindle's up here. Well, you've got this much space, sort of like on a drill press or a bandsaw. Well, bandsaws get limited by how much space there is in this area. With this mill, you could rotate it out and get a bigger space. Does that make sense? I used to make a lot of telescopes where we needed rings, and by offsetting the head like that, I could put a fixed point right here and rotate around and get a much bigger ring out here than I could here. You can also move it around and hang something off the side of your table. That's why I like Bridgeports. They're very versatile. Now, they've got a bad rep amongst professional machinists in that they can't hog off a 1/2 inch of material like a toolmaster can. But this one can nod the head, unlike a toolmaster, and that's the reason I kept it instead of the toolmaster. I've got other machines that can hog off a 1/2 inch of metal. I need a precision type machine to do the delicate stuff or the weird angle stuff. So I'm not a snob in that manner. Now I'm going to get another camera and I'm going to poke it inside that column and show you how you do this, because the bolts that hold the turret onto the column, or the riser now, are blind. There's no way to get in here to line them up. So Bridgeport's got a neat way of doing that. Now this is the inside of the column. This is a machined surface here. And basically this riser here mimics this surface. This is that surface up here, with one distinction. On the riser, the underside, I don't know if you can see that, is not milled. On the column, the underside is milled. That's because on the column, these flats on the spider ride on the bottom lip there, and they basically sandwich this part to the other part. Whereas on a riser, the bolts come down through this hole and into this part and clamp this to that surface, and thus sandwich the riser in between the turret and the column. Guess that's the best way. Now, I've seen some people have a hard time with this, and seeing how golly, okay, you guys are going to have to go up here and look down. Don't get vertigo. I need both hands. There's these little ledges that are in here, and basically they form a little shelf for the spider to sit on. See how that's in there? Now, I've already got some grease on the underside there, but I'm going to put a little bit more dab on those before I mess with them. And I line these up so that the turret and this is perfectly aligned. And I do that with all the bolts and measure before I put on the turret. You don't do that, it's a bear to get them all lined up. I've seen some people take an alignment tool like bridge people, iron workers use, you know, to get the holes lined up. But I've always just taken the bolts and put them in. Speaking of bolts, this one didn't come with any. These are the original bolts, and as you can see, they've got a little bit longer head on them. They're still the standard 1/2 inch by 13. And you can go buy bolts cheap. I bought 4 of these. These are 11-inch bolts. These are 7-inch, so I added 4 inches to get 11. That's pretty good, huh? The only difference is these are both grade 5 bolts. Is this head is a little bit smaller, but it's what it is. I like to put a little lube on it, and frankly this is engine assembly lube. Put it on the pads here. There's some now that'll be protected from rusting, and at the same time allow it to not ever stick and, you know, get rusted to pieces. These things sit out in a bad environment, you know, in most shops. This one's air conditioned and heated, so it's not that bad. Now, if Don was here, he'd help me lift this thing up, but obviously he's not. I don't know. I gotta get back to the gym and start lifting weights again. There we go. Now once I get this lined up with the bolts, I got to be making sure I don't jiggle it too much, because then it'd be very, very difficult to put the bolts in with the top on it. I want to see what I'm doing. That's one. Two. Get the others. Got it cleaned off my table, and I'm starting to go through all the goodies. Then I realized I've got some other parts to paint. I'm going to paint that that motor table drive right there. I got all kinds of parts. Got new oiler. What else? All these parts here are being replaced. Bags are your friends. Like there's the knee support screws. These are a new set of felts. Got all the bolts there for attaching it to the knuckle up on the ram. I've got all new screws and everything for it. A lot of new parts. Well, I know where the parts are for the other two bolts. I'm just too tired to go get them. So I'm going to use these old ones to line this up and get it set up. Now if you watch what I've done here, you can look at these holes coming in, and you can kind of get it straightened up, and you kind of notice that that one is a little bit off center of the hole here. It's closer on this side than that side. The same way with that one right there. So you don't want that. You want everything to be lined up before you get out of this part. See, like right there, that one's perfectly in the center now. This one's really close. You come over on this side, that one's really close, and that one's really close. So now that spider's where I want it. And from now on, I'm not going to touch this part. I'm going to sit it down very easily, the turret where it comes up. I sat there the other night wondering what I was going to do about the bolts. And frankly, I could have gone and got some hex and just made some new bolts. I even thought of doing the Pakistani truck channel thing. Cut them in half, add an extension onto it, and let it go. But by the time I did all of that, for $15, I bought class 5 bolts. It cost me more than that in welding stuff and everything else. I'll tell you what, before I get dirty and get yelled at by the wife, I'm going to run you over to the other side of the shop and show you the grinder and what's going on with it. Well, another little thing I've been working on is changing all the light bulbs in the shop. If you can see there, I don't know how well it shows up, but that's kind of a yellowish look. Those are outdoor 110 watt fluorescent tubes. They use them in outdoor signs a lot because they don't flicker and they start up when it's cold. I'm changing over, those are 8-foot tubes there, to 8-foot LED tubes. The only thing you don't like about these is you have to put a little clip in the middle of the... You have to put a little clip like this in the middle to keep them. They sag. Of course, the fluorescent tube does the same thing. I've been playing like a monkey or an acrobat, I like to consider myself. These are the LED tubes I got. They fit in the same fixture. And the only thing you have to do is get rid of the ballast. It's no ballast required. Those are straight 110 volt. That's the old ones there with the ballast required. So you just rewire the fixtures and slap those in, and I hope they save me a lot of money over the years. We will see. Now I finally got the hub off this thing. It was a little rusty right in here and couldn't get it to break loose, and finally I did. Had to get a little tough with it, but you know, that's a precision spindle on this machine and you don't want to screw it up. Anyway, this is the outer hub. This is the inner hub, and these are the cool grind hubs. And if you'll notice, they've got a bunch of little holes right there. Well, and then they have a lip that's in the coolant. It's spun around and it hits this lip and forced down through those holes and quote, quote, into the wheel. And that's what supposedly makes everything work. Now I got a conundrum here. If you read the literature, it says that DoAll perforated blotters must be used on this machine. Well, unless I'm sadly mistaken, this isn't a blotter, but a label. Now, it could be a blotter. This is the old wheel. This was a 12-inch wheel that they had on it because 14-inch wheels are expensive. I got this one off of eBay, and it's the same company that makes this one, CGW out of Israel. I got this all cleaned off. Spindle and everything's in good shape. Now that goes on like that. I've got to move this out of the way. In fact, I don't know if we even have the stuff here to do it. It's not that one. Is it this one? Yeah. I'll do it while I'm talking. Basically, I need to lower this coolant shoe down. And I think this will do it, but I'm not sure, to get that wheel to fit on in there. I've got a mister hooked up to it. Well, that's the only thing there is. Take some more of that out of the way. I've got some boards on top of this mag chuck. Keep it from getting all beat up because it's in really nice shape. This should just be going against it. Well, it's really loose now. Could be rusted in place up in there. You don't have time to watch me do that. I needed to loosen it up and get it down some so this wheel would fit in. And it still won't. Got to get that down farther. Okay. Maybe a little tapping. I'm afraid of tearing it up, so I'm going to hold off on that. But all the parts are here. What I need to do now is figure out my conundrum. Reading through the manual, it says that you need the perforated blotters for this so that the hub doesn't touch the abrasive side. Now, is this label considered a blotter nowadays? It's pretty thin, but try as I might, I can't find a place to buy blotters. And if you'll notice around the edge here, this has been covered up by the flange of this hub adapter or hub, and water could go into that wheel through there. If you go to Norton's website, they have a whole web page of importance of blotters. In fact, in the OSHA, it's required to have blotters. But I haven't found a single place. I found a printing company that will print you blotters, but my question to you old grinder hands is, are these some type of blotter or not? From what I understand, the purpose of the blotter is to
The hot dogs are ready.
Okay. Dinner time. The purpose of blotters is if this wheel has a high spot on it in the abrasive when they made it, and you crush down the two halves of the adapter, it could crack your wheel. So the blotters are there to take that compression force and even it out and let the blotter crush instead of the wheel. Now, go to Practical Machinist, people talk about using their favorite beverage carton to make their own blotters. And then I found a website that says, never cut your own blotters. Well, I can't buy them. I don't know if that's a blotter for sure or not. It doesn't look like it would crush a lot, just a tiny bit. And frankly, my favorite beverage carton is one of these. And it's a little thicker than this is. This hub doesn't go all the way out, or excuse me, this label blotter / whatever it is, doesn't go all the way out to the diameter of this hub. Personally, I'm never going to use flood coolant unless I just get tired of the mist. So what do? Do I go ahead and make one of the blotters out of this? When one website says don't. I can't buy them. Nowhere. MasterCard and any of the big supply houses don't even list them. So that's my conundrum. I think I'm just going to make some of these just as a precaution. I don't see where it would hurt anything to go over this label with one that goes all the way out. They say it keeps wear and tear off of it, but this, if I make it that way, will totally close off those holes. If it's here like this, it could be going through some of those holes and getting out. But I don't even know if that's the right way to do it, and DoAll doesn't make grinders anymore. So I need a little help. Got the don't know if y'all can see from there. I gotta go eat hot dogs or I'd tell you. This is the balancing stand. Got a new arbor here for it. Jay Holland over on Practical Machinist had one, sent it to me. Really reasonable, $100 shipped. This you mount your hub to, and it goes on this with your wheel in here, and you balance it. I'll show you that when I get around to doing it, which is going to be soon because I need it. I'm going to go eat hot dogs.